Poe lived in Fordham, now the Bronx, from May of 1846 until his death on October 7, 1849. Poe endured grief here with his wife Virginia's death in January of 1847. The High Bridge construction began in 1837 and was completed in 1848. The bridge continued the route of the old Croton Aqueduct from the Bronx across the Harlem River into Manhattan. From James A. Harrison's biography of Poe, Complete Works of E. A. Poe, Volume 1, in Chapter 12, he quotes, "During Mr. Poe's residence at Fordham, a walk to High Bridge was one of his favorite and habitual recreations. The water of the aqueduct is conveyed across the river on a range of lofty granite arches, which rise to the height of 145 feet above high water level. On the top, a turfed and grassy road, used only by foot passengers and flanked on either side by a low parapet of granite, makes one of the finest promenades imaginable." While Poe lived in Fordham, he wrote many tales and many poems. Some of the tales that he wrote were The Cask of Amontillado, Malanta Tauta, Landor's Cottage, Hop Frog, Von Kempelen and His Discovery, Xing a Paragraph, The Lighthouse, which unfortunately Poe did not get to finish. His poems that he wrote while in Fordham were To a Valentine, Model Verses, Deep in Earth, To Miss Louise Olivia Hunter, To MLS, who is known as Marie Louise Shue, The Beloved Physician, Ulalume, To Marie Louise, An Enigma. He revised his original poem To Helen for Sarah Helen Whitman, The Bells, El Dorado, For Annie, To My Mother, and his last, Annabel Lee. An Enigma. Seldom we find, says Solomon Don Dunce, half an idea in the profoundest sonnet, through all the flimsy things we see at once, as easily as through a Naples bonnet. Trash of all trash, how can a lady don it? Yet heavier far than your Petrarchan stuff, owl downy nonsense that the faintest puff twirls into trunk paper the while you con it, and veritably soul is right enough. The general Petrarchanides are arrant, bubbles ephemeral and so transparent. But this is now, you may depend upon it, stable, opaque, immortal, all by dint of the dear names that lie concealed within it. To Helen. I saw thee once only, years ago, I must not say how many, but not many. It was a July midnight, and from out a full-orbed moon that, like thine own soul, soaring, sought a precipitant pathway up through heaven, there fell a silvery silken veil of light, with quietude and sultriness and slumber, upon the upturned faces of 1,000 roses that grew in an enchanted garden, where no wind dared to stir, unless on tiptoe, fell on the upturned faces of these roses, that gave out, in return for the love-light, their odorous souls in an ecstatic death, fell on the upturned faces of these roses, that smiled and died in this parterre enchanted by thee and by the poetry of thy presence. Clad all in white upon a violet bank, I see thee half reclining, while the moon fell on the upturned faces of the roses, and on thine own upturned, alas, in sorrow. Was it not fate that, on this July midnight, was it not fate, whose name is also sorrow, that bade me pause before that garden gate to breathe the incense of those slumbering roses? No footsteps stirred, the hated world all slept, save only thee and me. I paused, I looked, and in an instant all things disappeared. Ah, bear in mind this garden was enchanted. The pearly luster of the moon went out, the mossy banks and the meandering paths, the happy flowers and the repining trees, were seen no more, the very roses' odors died in the arms of the adoring airs. All expired save thee, save less than thou, save only divine light in thine eyes, save but the soul in thine uplifted eyes. I saw but them, they were the world to me, I saw but them, saw only them for hours, saw only them until the moon went down. What wild heart histories seemed to lie enwritten upon those crystalline celestial spheres! How dark a woe, yet how sublime a hope! How silently serene a sea of pride! How daring an ambition, yet how deep, how fathomless a capacity for love! But now, at length, dear Dian sank from sight into a western couch of thundercloud, and thou, a ghost amid the entombing trees, didst glide away. Only thine eyes remained. They would not go. They never yet have gone. Lighting my lonely pathway home that night, they have not left me, as my hopes have since. They follow me, they lead me through the years. They are my ministers, yet I their slave. Their office is to illumine and enkindle. My duty to be saved by their bright light, and purified in their electric fire, and sanctified in their Elysian fire. They fill my soul with beauty, which is hope, and are far up in heaven the stars I kneel to in the sad, silent watches of my night, while even in the meridian glare of day I see them still, two sweetly scintillant Venuses unextinguished by the sun. Annabel Lee. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs in heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we, and neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so all the night-tide I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea.